So you, well, it was your idea, your original idea to try and
Yeah,
see if it was possible to put together stuff for a TOG tech tree, essentially.
yeah.
So,
I just when the OIs came along, the OI branch
hmm
I was under Jinkle's video. He said it was like a nation of talkers, and then I was like, why not?
hmm
So I decided I'd do all the research I can, and then ran into Listy. He
hmm
said there was a top org man who was chasing Tog for 8 years. This was at Christmas, by the way. It would be 9 years about now. And apparently there's dozens of Tog designs, Togman says. He also says that there's that there's a lot of Togs with really thick armor, impervious to any World War II German anti-tank weapons. Um, and also some armoured normal TOG2s as well.
Also, for those who don't already know, or who may be wondering, the TOG, of course, is a machine that was devised by the British kind of during the Second World War, but with a very World War One-esque kind of feel to it and look to it.
Yeah, basically back at Staff HQ, General Melchers has an idea that he would create a really big pointless machine. He was like, "Oh, Tommy, sir, do you know what would be a good smashing idea to stop our soldiers getting bogged down in trenches?" "Oh God, what's yeah, we make a gargantuanly huge tank with paper thin armor, really, really slow and very vulnerable to any anti-tank weapon, and stick some spawns and mounts on the side which had even thinner armor. Designed for crossing trenches in a war that isn't even on anymore." Yes.
Sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And of course, it's worth remembering that the machines, the initial tanks that you had in the First World War, had relatively thin armour. It was just basically to keep out machine gun fire and the like, not to stop anything, larger.
Yeah,
So,
Top 2 was an improvement, but yeah, put a 17-pounder gun on it. It's kind of like it doesn't even know what it wants to be. Does it want to be a TD, or does it want to be a trench crosser for an outdated war concept?
yeah, so I mean, this thing was designed in, the 1940s.
Yeah.
Long after the First World War had been and gone. We're well into the Second World War now, and so you do have to wonder why they thought this was a good idea, but there we go. Go figure.
Anyway, the Tog 2 did mark. It was the end of the beginning, and they decided they'd go in another direction, kind of like a tortoise, kind of like style to it,
Yep.
with really thick armor, kind of the kind of thing you'd expect to be designed to cross through. I mean, smash through the what do you call it?
Maginot Line. No, Siegfried Line, sorry.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. And
Faux pas there.
yeah, that kind of thing. Anyway, Tog 1. Let's start with Tog 1. Basically, they wanted a long tank for crossing trenches with a really strong World War One tank flavour to it. It even has tracks that went around the hull, kind of like the Churchill.
Yep.
And unlike the Tog 2, which had them kind of hidden.
But wasn't there originally, if memory serves, a TOG design that did away with the turret entirely and had just a hull-mounted gun?
Was designed to cross trenches and withstand 47mm caliber gunfire from a distance of how many yards away? Where was it? Yeah, 100 yards away. And also some 105mm field guns.
So it was designed to stand up to something reasonably substantial.
Yeah, and it was designed to have, and its initial design was to have the howitz mounted in the front, the 75mm, and then also sponsor mounts in the sides with 2-pounders. So I think, yeah, the turret was definitely as on later. The turret,
Okay, yep.
the Matilda turret was as on later.
Yeah, fair enough. So we've got these, I mean, because we've already got the TOG 2 in the game as a premium at tier 6.
Yeah.
So I guess one obvious question is, what do you gain by adding in a new line of machines that are essentially variants of that, or predecessors of that machine?
A lot better armor. Also, it as tier 6 wise in the branch, the TOG 2 was the landmark moment where they decided it was the end of the beginning. They wanted to transfer to a to thick armor, you know, a steel bunker buster like thing. I mean, a steel bunker thing.
Something that became the tortoise, essentially.
Yeah. And it is pretty essential that this tank does go in the line. So how do we make it eligible to be copied? Well, give it less health, even though it would probably go into tier 8 games. Hopefully it won't. But
it would. I can almost guarantee that it would.
Yeah. I wish it wouldn't, but...
Well, Wargaming don't seem to like preferential matchmaking anymore, so assume that it would get tier 8 games. I mean, there is a precedent for all this, of course. You've already had there was the T25. There's a T25 in the German tech tree, for example. They introduced the Czechoslovakian tech tree, and there's another T25 bumped up to tier 6. So there is some precedent for doing something along these lines.
Oh yeah, it would be nerfed in health, better gun handling, and add sponsons to the sides to act as spaced armor over those city side doors.
Yeah,
anyway,
fair enough. So you've got the TOG 1 and various different versions of the TOG 2 at the mid tiers, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of tiers 4, 5, 6. What sort of stuff do you have down the lower end, sort of tiers 2 and 3, say?
Okay, maybe the A7 medium, because you know that's the kind of infantry tank that was lead up to something like the TOG 1.
I mean, to me actually the picture looks quite reminiscent of some of the cruiser tanks. Well, it's essentially a cruiser turret mounted on the chassis of, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is either. I'm not sure what tier 2 should be, but
I think the A7's a reasonable choice. I mean,
yeah, maybe if they get multi-gun activation, or multi-gun turret activation, then maybe they could add World War One tanks, because they are after all the things that led to the TOG.
Of course, yep. The same sort of train of thought.
It depends when this is released, and when the info's published, and when Wargaming decide to do this. Anyway, at the moment it's A7 medium tank, and then tier 3 probably the Vickers heavy tank, which has a dome-shaped turret, 2 pounds of gun, four mini turrets which kind of restrict gun repression or
they do a bit.
32 kilometers per hour fast, and 20mm maximum armor. Or was it 30? I think it was 20.
It looks quite like because at the moment on the heavy line you've got the Vickers medium 3. It's quite reminiscent of that. Again, with your 2 little turrets at the front, machine gun turrets, and similar kind of shape of chassis and all that. So you can see kind of the similar design philosophy. It's from the same company, of course.
Yeah. I haven't really found anything to do with mounting a 6 pounder in that turret yet. So I was thinking it could be like a faster but more restrictive version of Type 91.
Right, yeah. It'd probably be quite similar in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, it would be faster, but you have 4 turrets, it's going to be longer. It's not going to be as high, though.
No. I mean, I think from the game's perspective, if you did want to put a 6 pounder in the turret or something like that, I don't think it would be a terrible thing. I mean, you've got if you look at the medium tanks, you have 6-pounders in the British line, I think, from Tier 1.
Yeah.
So I can't see that being a big problem. From the game perspective, anyway.
I was wanting to add the Matilda one because you know that is that sort of action. You know, it should be added at some point, but that's more of a standard infantry tank kind of thing that should connect with the Matilda line, not like a TOG thing.
Yep.
Even though the TOG 1 has a Matilda 2 turret.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. Alright, so they're the lower tiers. What sort of stuff do you have, or would you envisage, or would you think of at the higher tiers then?
So basically at Christmas, Listy told me that there was a TOG man who was researching the TOGs for almost a decade. And
it's dedication for you.
Yeah, he says it could reach tier 10, and I confirmed this with TOG man himself. That they could reach tier 10, and there's dozens of buffed up TOGs out there, which is great.
So are we essentially talking about a series of TOG tanks that have been basically up-armoured and up-gunned?
So some really thick armoured TOG, TOGs, but I'm not really sure how many of them are similar to TOG 2 in any way, because I haven't really seen them yet. The super heavy TOGs are all paper drawings for really, really heavy frontal armour to be immune to pretty much anything the Germans had. There's a slew of very heavy fronted armoured variants too, and some much heavier fronted versions.
Essentially, Togman says there are plenty of candidates. We just don't know exactly what they are.
So yeah, we don't really know what we've got, but it can reach tier 10, I'm informed.
So it would essentially be a British super heavy line, the same as you have, you know, a Soviet super heavy line with the KV-4, and you've got the both German lines, you could argue, are super heavy, but the Japanese line, of course, the heavy tank line, which is a super heavy line. So yeah.
The high tier tanks that were one that that we found earlier, yeah, they were fakes. We were just like piecing together scarce information based on what Togman told us, and taking whatever sort of info we could find. But yeah, apparently they were fakes. All of them. The TOG 4, the drawing of TOG 4, and the Super TOG and the Action 10 TOG, they were all fakes.
Okay.
We didn't say they were true. We were just like,
that's fine.
We never said they were real. We were just like piecing things together from what we had. And I try to make that absolutely clear on the forum.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. So you've got some reasonable candidates for the lower and mid tiers, and there is apparently a fair spread of options for higher tier machines as well. Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Do you think... do you think such a line would be popular, in your opinion?
Well, the TOG 2 is popular.
That's true. That is true.
Tiers 4 and 5, they're similar to tier 6 premium we have. I'm not sure about. I can't say anything for the ones above tier 6. Apart from the TOG 2R, which is going to be which could be a more nimble TOG 2 at tier 7 with better rate of fire, better gun handling, better speeds, better power to weight ratio, and shorter in length, more nimble, more mobile.
Alright.
You can read about that on FTR.
Yeah.
If there do happen to be some heavier TOGs and some more nimble ones, then I think TOG 2R would be where to hit it off at tier 7. And I'm guessing tier 7 in any in any heavy fronted tog line would probably be a up armored version of Tog 2, which is pretty likely to have existed.
Mm-hmm. These are, and just to be clear, these proposals, they are tanks that either existed or they were paper designs or something along those lines. It's not a complete work of fantasy. Just to
they were paper projects for things like the Siegfried line and stuff.
Yep.
I think the Siegfried line.
Yeah.
I would imagine they were for that.
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what other practical use they would serve.
I mean, they're not amphibious, so they can't do the D-Day damage. Can you imagine an army of tortoises actually floating on those little?
I can imagine them sinking.
No, I'd imagine the ships like tilting over. Also, in case you're interested in supporting us, there's a Vote the Tog line forum which has a put up for voting if you want the to see a bunch of togs or just premiums, or if it's a general Melcher's idea and it shouldn't be implemented in any way whatsoever, and the Tog 2 as a premium should just be flushed out of everyone's heads forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put links to all that in the description. Alright, cool. In which case, thank you for that.